Class is in session. I hope you got your notebook and I hope you're ready to learn something new. But thank you guys for tuning back into Rush ABQ. Put some emphasis on that Q because you already know what we do. Making the videos that you want and the trucks that you need. But today we ain't going over a truck. We're going over something a little bit more specific, and it's going to apply to every type of truck. And that is rear ratio. So this is more of a specking video than anything. I find a lot of customers complaining to me about their trucks, which is good for me, I guess, because usually that means they need another truck. But maybe I can stop you from having issues because, once again, if you're making money, even if it isn't the truck you bought from me, that means you got more money for a down payment to buy a truck from me. So we're going to go over rear ratios. I hear a lot of guys complaining, saying that, man, this truck sucks, this brand sucks, this engine, this transmission, etc., etc., etc. And I mean, may that be the reason? Sometimes, I guess. But as you know, I'm preferably Peterbilt. I'm not going to talk bad about any brand, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, we're going to get into the rear ratio. You can, just a prime example, you can have a 605 horse 2050 torque engine with a 2250 torque transmission. Those are the two biggest transmissions and engines that Peterbilt offers. You could have the 20,000 fronts, 46,000 rears with 20,000 pusher axle, but still not get anything done if you got a 308 rear ratio. Besides strip your transmission and snap your drive lines and just constantly be in shop and just realize that your truck doesn't work for anything, you just spent all this money on it. So we're gonna get into rear ratios, and this is what makes a truck a truck. This can make a small engine pull harder than a big engine, and this can make a big engine pull the way it was meant to pull. So we're gonna pull into this white screen behind me, and we're gonna talk about rear ratios, and when it's all said and done, you guys will be experts. So let's get this started. Lesson session 3 begins.
Okay guys, so what exactly does a rear ratio actually do or determine? In the basic way, it's your RPMs, it's your top speed, it's how well you can climb a hill. It is your miles per gallon. I mean, it ties into pretty much everything that you need out of your truck. So commercial world, it's a little confusing. The higher the ratio, technically, the lower pneumatically the truck is. So a 336 would be a high ratio compared to a 410 ratio would be a low ratio. So let's tie into the differences. So a high ratio would be something like a 336. You're going to have a much higher top speed than you would with a low ratio. Reason being, your tires are going to rotate a lot less at certain speeds compared to a higher ratio. Now, let's get into the lower ratios. Lower ratios would be something like a 410, which would be a heavy haul setup. You're going to climb up hills really great. You're going to be able to constantly be able to pull up any type of terrain depending on how technically low your ratio is. You want low ratios for heavy things to keep you from snapping drive lines or stripping transmissions. And the downside about it is your top speed dramatically drops the lower your ratio goes. So you're going to find these in smaller engines. A low ratio can make a smaller engine stronger. So like a 348 medium duty engine with your 20,000 fronts, 46 rears, and say it's a dump truck and it's hauling 60,000 plus pounds. That engine technically would have a hard time hauling that, but if you hit it with like a 557 rear ratio, it would be able to climb any hill for the most part at that point. Now its top speed is going to be suffering from it. So let's tie into the next section of this whole video. We're going to get into highway manual transmissions. A manual transmission, we need to make sure it's specific. We'll get into the automatic transmissions later, but highway setup would be like a 308 rear ratio or up to a 356. You have a series of ratios that you can run through. It all depends on the actual differentials themselves or the rear axles themselves, but on average we're looking at 308s to 321s, 325s, what else, 336s, 342s, and 355s. The more of a hill you're going to climb, saying that I'm going to be on the highway, but I live in California, I live in Colorado, I live in New Mexico. On the freeway, there's a lot of hills, but I want to have a nice top speed. You get closer to that 355 to reassure climbing the hills. But if you're on flat grounds, especially like Let's say Houston, for instance, a 308 would be perfect. It'll give you that very nice top speed. When it comes to our trucks, the old trucks used to shift anywhere from 16 to 1500 RPMs. Well, sorry, actually 16 to 1800 RPMs. Our trucks are shifting anywhere from 13 to 15, preferably that 15 marker, because that's when your torque gives out. But these ratios right here, you're going to be going about 62 to 75 miles per hour, depending on which ratio you do. Now, let's go ahead and get into the heavy haul section. The heavy hauls are going to be your 110,000 pound plus type deals, maybe even 90,000 pound plus, depending on what you consider to be a heavy. But I would say you don't want to go any higher than a 370 rear ratio, and 356 would preferably be the lowest you would want to go, unless we're talking about heavy. I'm talking like 300,000 pounds plus type stuff. You're going to dramatically lose some top speeds. You're going to be anywhere between 50 to 65 miles per hour, but you're going to be able to climb hills. You're going to have a nice slow takeoff, so you're not going to lose too much traction. You're not going to spin out, especially in dirt. So these ratios, these 370s and whatnot, are really good for off-road trucks because once again, you have a little bit of a slower creep, so you're not going to spin out on the dirt. So this is a really good setup. So let's kind of wrap up this video and get to the last little bit. We're going to get into automatic transmissions. It's pretty much the wave of what the future is seen to be. Automatic transmissions, there's sometimes direct drives, sometimes not. They'll have overdrives, but I would say a safe bet to work. And of course, there's scenarios that these will be different, but a safe bet, once again, would be anywhere from a 285 rear ratio to a 336 rear ratio. You're going to get the best top speeds you can get. The reason why we're going with higher ratios is automatic shift a little bit different than a human would, so that they're able to really handle these higher ratios because they can get through those gears a little bit quicker. And no offense to those who pop through those gears quickly. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking more to the guys that are kind of getting up and running. But automatic, we love our automatics. We're big on 18 speeds, but anywhere from the Allison to the Eaton Ultra Shifts to even PACCAR's new transmission, which they did a collaboration with Cummins. These are going to be the wave of the future. If you're a company owner, I would suggest start getting automatics because your trade-in value will increase dramatically in the next 5 years or so. But we can get into stuff like that later in another video. But hey guys, thank you again for tuning into Rush Truck Center, oh my bad, Rush ABQ, which is also Rush Truck Center Albuquerque. And thank you guys. Lesson session number 3. That's the end of it.